Aloha and welcome to Moonscopes. Love Your Life Astrology. I'm your host, KG Stiles. So today we will be talking about the highlights for the astrology of from now, December 16th through the 31st. We'll be covering some of that, as well as especially the astrology of the Cancer full moon and what this is signifying. So today on the show, my guest is shamanic astrologer Kaylin Castell. Kaylin is a renowned shamanic astrologer, teacher, co-founder of the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School. Kaylin has a wealth of understanding about the myths of astrology and teaches live events as well as online classes around the world. So please join me in welcoming my guest, Kaylin Castell. Welcome to the show, Kaylin. Thank you so much for joining us.
So glad to be here and sharing with you today. It's awesome. Always fun to do this with you.
Yes. So, well, this is quite a stellar period that we are in. So let's talk about what's going on. Let's first start with the solstice. It's always a powerful period of transition on Mother Earth and for all of her children. So is there anything unique about this particular solstice in 2015 from your perspective?
Well, of course, all the solstices are special. And we could say from at least from 1962 to 2034, all the solstices are especially magical and amazing because the sun, and solstice literally means stand still of the sun. The sun actually is standing still in the sky. So for 3 days exact in the same place, but for many weeks, actually about 3 weeks, it's kind of in the same place in the sky. It's like, the pendulum, as it swings to a maximum point, it stops and then it swings back. Well, that's what the sun is doing. So at the December solstice in the northern hemisphere, for those of us in the northern hemisphere, it is the winter solstice, opposite solstice in the southern hemisphere. But what's happening is where the sun is in the sky at this time. And there is something we call the galactic cross. There's two of them in the sky, one near galactic center and one in the opposite part of the sky at the galactic edge. And so the solstice sun happens to rise on the cross where the plane of our solar system, or the ecliptic, the path the planets follow, intersects the plane of the Milky Way. And so it creates a cross in the sky. And the sun is exactly on that cross at the solstice. And that's happening now in this window between 1962 and 2034. That's the minimum window. We could take an even smaller window to like 1987 to 2016. So we're, where it's like, pretty square on the cross. And it was exact on the cross in May of 1998, according to astronomer John Muse, who did the calculations for that. So we're in the center point of a major turning of an age, a huge major, like New Year's point, we could say, on a 26,000 year cycle. If we look at the solstice being a New Year's point on a solar cycle for 1 year, and we look at the 26,000 year cycle as a year, if we looked at 26,000 years as one great year, because that's how long it takes for the sun to return back to this place in the sky. So the solstices now are extremely important, and we're getting direct transmissions right from the galactic center. This is something that the Mayans refer to as Hunabku, the movement of all measure and time. And so we can tune into the sun, seeing it rising and setting at the time of the solstice, getting that direct illumination right from the center of the galaxy and right on the galactic cross. So what's interesting is the sun is on the cross for 3 days. Exact. It's not moving, a little bit. It's like just suspended right there. So the sun on the cross for 3 days kind of reminds us of a story that we might have heard of another sun on a cross for 3 days. So that's part of where that mythic story actually came from. And it came from an even older tradition, a Mithraic tradition of celebrating the sun on the cross at the solstices. That happens at both solstices, but one's at galactic center, which is the one we're having in a few days, coming up really quickly. So that's super significant for any solstice that we're experiencing now until 2034, really. So celebrating the sun and the return of the sun doing our ceremonies. You know, some ancient cultures believed that if they didn't do the ceremonies, the sun wouldn't return. And we wouldn't have the beginning of a new cycle. And this is, of course, a new solar cycle. So we want to be conscious of what it is that we're thinking about, what's in our hearts, what's, you know, what is it that we're wanting to energize, you know, feeling into what it is that we're wanting to bring forth, and become a vibrational match, you know, align our feelings and our thoughts with our intentions and attention. And what we're placing attention on, of course, is part of what creates our reality. So it's a very significant and important time. We could even say it's like a reset point. So if we haven't been going in the direction we really thought we wanted to go in, you know, we can definitely reset at this time to start moving in the direction we want. And many, many cultures actually saw the solstice as their New Year's play. We have a calendar that, you know, arbitrarily places it at January 1st, whatever that means. It's not connected to a solar cycle. So
Yeah. Yes.
that's what I would say is really important about the solstice right now.
Well, that's plenty. So yes, I really see this, you know, there's so much emotional sensitivity. There's a lot of psychic sensitivity. So the intuition, the dreams are really full blown for helping you move forward and really getting in touch with your priorities, being very clear, using this time to really empower yourself to move forward. So that's what I'm hearing you say, or
Yes,
yeah. So
very well said.
yeah. So let's talk about the Christmas full moon in Cancer. So, you know, this is right after the solstice, and
Right.
this day also Uranus stations direct, and there is so much happening. There's so many aspects. This moon is making so many aspects. I mean, here's basically the rundown. The moon's trine to Neptune, trine to Jupiter. Uranus is stationing direct. The moon is also sextile to Jupiter, opposing Mercury, square to Mars, trine to Venus, as well as the Venus is sextiling the North Node and Jupiter. So that's a big you know, complex mixture of things going on. There's a lot of intensity that's wanting to transpire now. That's what I get from this. And so what's your take on this, and what's the best way to navigate these energies, and what's the positive outcomes? How can we use the energies most positively now?
Well, you know, just a couple of things. One, if we think about the solstice time as a pause, like a standstill, like a pausing in the cycle, it's a time to be more inner, as you were saying, and doing our inner work. And then we look at Uranus going direct. It's also a pause. And Uranus is the change agent. So when it pauses, it's kind of like what I like to refer to as the still point, where anything and everything is possible. So we have the solstice time when anything and everything is possible. We can connect into that field of all possibilities. Uranus stationing is also a time for that. So we could say this is a really powerful time to, again, align our intentions and attentions to what our true desires are. And just something to kind of keep in mind is that what we desire, you know, a lot of times people will say in some spiritual traditions that desire is like bad, or it's what causes suffering. But it's not that desire causes suffering. What causes suffering is our attachment to how our desires manifest. Because desire literally is what activates creation. Without desire, we wouldn't have creation. We need desire. And then our will, how we align our will with our desire and our feelings with our desire, is what helps us to manifest. So this is a really powerful full moon for, again, you know, so close to the solstice. It's actually starting a cycle of 13 full moons from one solstice to the next. So December solstice 2015 to December solstice 2016, there will be 13 full moons. Now, this doesn't always happen. A lot of people believe that there are 13 full moons every year, but there are not. There are actually two cycles of the moon. One is 27.3 days, so the moon will come back to any given starting point 27.3 days later. So if we say we picked a star like Antares in the sky, or Regulus, stars that people usually are somewhat familiar with, like a really bright star, the moon will pass that star 13 times every year. but there will only be usually 12, 13 full moons in a year. And that is if you're counting from a calendar year or from a solstice year. So 2016 will be very special because we will have the 13 full moons from the December solstice of 2015 to the December solstice 2016. So the sacred numbers of the moon are 12 and 13, because full moon to full moon, it usually is 12 a year. The closest whole number, if you divide 29.5 from one full moon to the next, 29.5 days into a year, you'll get the number 12. Closest whole number is 12. If you divide 27.3 into a year, 365 days, the closest whole number is 13. So both numbers are sacred to the moon. And so that's very exciting about this, is the beginning then of a series of 13 full moons. In addition to the fact of everything else that we're talking about, Cancer full moon is also a time, because Cancer is all about nurturing. How do we nourish ourselves and take care of ourselves and take care of each other? And how do we create that experience of family and wholeness through our interactions with others and working in cooperation? We've lived in a culture that basically says it's competition. That's the way we need to get wherever we're going to be successful. But that has not been very helpful. We can see the state of the world today based on this sort of feeling of competition. And so the Cancer would say it's really about cooperation. How do we cooperate and support and nurture each other as well as ourselves? So that's something that we can also work with and hold in intention during this particular full moon. On Christmas Day, a day that's celebrating love in the world, right? That really is I think the intention of that particular time, and bringing in a lot of light. So the solstice is the December solstice in the northern hemisphere is the time of the longest night and the shortest day, the most amount of hours of dark as opposed to the amount of hours of light. And so we're in the dark time of the year, like that new moon point of the year, because the new moon is when you'll see it, right? When you look at the sun and the moon together. But the full moon is when there's the most amount of light, so it's the light within the dark. And we can see, that helps to illuminate what it is that we're really desiring, intending, our awareness on, our attention on. Really powerful to work with this ceremonially in some way. And it doesn't, you can have very simple ceremony. You can just make a statement to the universe. Like, okay, this is what I am intending. This is what I am desiring. This is what I am aligning my feelings and my thoughts to. And then if you find yourself not thinking those things or feeling those things, and you become aware of it, you can change that. You can shift that to align again with what that intention is. So it can be really helpful to write out what the intention is that you really wanted to energize for this solar year.
Yes, and when you were saying that, I was seeing this image of this Cancer moon, the mother moon, the ruler of the moon, the divine feminine, shining the light into the darkness. I mean, this is in the northern hemisphere. It's the time of deepest, when we're at the darkest point. So it seems like an illumination of the darkness, so that we can have revelations, illumination of what's been hidden.
Yes, so true. And we've got a lot of support for that. Whatever's in the way of that can be cleared out. That's part of Uranus' star as well, because Uranus is the change agent. So it's like if we're going down a path, and it may be a perfectly good path, but it's not really aligned with our soul's desire and intent and why we're here, then we need to get reoriented back on the right path. Doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It's just meaning that it's helping you to get to where your soul really wants to be.
Yes. And we talked before about Jupiter conjuncting the North Node, which is really about activating your divine purpose. It's your right.
Yeah, so it's like if we think of Virgo, Jupiter and Virgo conjunct the North Node. The North Node having to do with our destiny, Jupiter having to do with expansion. So Jupiter's expanding our destiny. In Virgo, it has to do with the sacred work. And there will be 3 exact passes of Jupiter over the North Node, which is rare. It doesn't happen that often.
You have the dates for those?
Yes.
January, I think, is one.
Yeah, there's two actually in January, January 23rd and 25th. And then again on June 20th, which is right before the June solstice.
Right.
So that's
Right.
powerful, and they're really close right now. So we've got this energy that's going to really see us through all of 2016.
Yes. Well, I think this is a birthing moon too. You know, you think of that, the fullness, you know, of the divine feminine when she's giving birth. You know, the womb. I see the cancer, kind of like a womb. You know, any full moon is sort of like, you know, a birthing. You know, where you're coming to term, whatever you kind of set as your intention or whatever you're having a, you know, a first harvest of, or you're releasing what you need to let go of so that you can even reach more of your potential. So, and also one of the things that came through this time, you were mentioning doing rituals. What came through was to call upon the cherubim, which are very close. They are some of the highest frequency energy, very close to the divine creative life force of the world. However you want to call that, we all have different names for that. But their whole divine assignment from the Creator is to be the holy guardians of ideals. That's the Neptune. Form, that's Saturn. And then rituals, places, the home. And, you know, the cherubim call upon them when you're doing your rituals, you know, to protect you from any or all discord and help you to release anything, any baggage you have, any way that you're contributing to, you know, discord in your own life, you know, to be able to be honest and truthful with yourself. What are you bringing? You know, what resistance do you have? What programs or things do you have that you need to be truthful about, that you need to let go of? Myself, I'm doing a lot of, you know, clearing. I've been just getting rid of things I have not used, and I'm pretty zen. I don't usually have a lot of extra stuff around, but things I haven't used, you know, they're nice things or whatever, but they're not in use, so they're not serviceable. They're not a part of my life right now. I'm just clearing them out. I'm letting go of them and recycling them, just so that I can receive more. I can get, you know, you know, clear about simplifying things. I think that gives a message to the universe that you want to focus on the priorities. You want things to go simply. You know, you want to simplify your life, and that, you know, not more clutter, but you want to have things nice and clear. You want that clarity. So, you know, for me, that's by letting go of any extraneous, anything that I'm not using right now. It helps me bring in and receive more. Mother Mira says the quiet mind receives more. And I really believe that you can have more clarity. The more you can get your mind still and clear, the more you'll be able to receive the blessings that are always available to us.
Yes, that's beautiful. And yeah, so hopefully people will be inspired and to, you know, engage this time in some way. And it can be personal. You can get friends together. That's always great, especially if you're in alignment with the same kinds of intentions and are willing to support each other in a cooperative, collaborative kind of way. But if you don't have that, or you don't have time for that, you can still do something to really energize this time on your own. And yeah, you can see I have an altar behind me, so it, you know, holds a lot of intention. And when you create altars, they alter your awareness. So altars are a great way to, you know, put some intentions forward for the coming year, and then you can keep energizing that altar throughout the year as well.
Yes, exactly. You want to keep energizing the altar. Yeah, it's not a static place. It's dynamic. The energy is dynamic.
Right.
Yeah.
So you take things off. You might put things on. You might, you know, as you're guided and what feels alive for you in the moment. But to create a solstice altar or a New Year altar or whatever you want to call it, it has the intentions you have, and it can be symbols. It doesn't have, you know, you can do written words. You can do written intentions. There's lots of different ways you can go about. But whatever you feel guided, just tuning in and really feeling into your heart what is speaking to you and how you want to bring that forth. And really, you could say an altar is like the first level of manifestation. You know, you're creating something that's helping to manifest that vision of what it is that that you're wanting to bring forth, and you've already taken some action to do that, which is
Yes.
yeah. And then it reminds your subconscious every time you see the altar what the intention is. You don't have to necessarily keep thinking about it constantly, but it helps to focus the intention and attention. If you put it someplace you can see it often.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
you're creating a sacred space of your life.
Yes, beautiful. Well said. Yeah.
Yeah. So how does the year end for us, Kaylin?
And this year,
Yes.
this
I mean,
year,
it's a dynamic. This is one of the most dynamic, energetically dynamic years I've seen. I mean, it is an 8-year. We're headed into a 9-year, which I feel like, you know, the 9 is completion. So there's a lot of feeling of hurry up to so that you're prepared. You know, you've done all that you need to, so that you can really do the work of completion.
right?
So how do you see us ending, and how do you see us starting 2016? Do you have any?
Well, there's one thing that always happens right now. I mean, that's going to last for probably another maybe 72 years or so. So because the seasons are shifting through the constellations. And so the signs change, the seasonal signs, you know, we have different stars behind the different seasons is what I'm trying to say, I guess. So right now it happens at December 31st and January 1st at midnight of December 31st, you know, as we're moving from the 31st to the 1st, is that the star Sirius is directly overhead. And it gives a big transmission, a direct download, a beaming of energy right to the earth at that particular time. And so we can tune into that energy because it's a really uplifting, great energy if we're, you know, choosing to engage it in that way. And Sirius has a lot of information for us. There's a lot of light codes that come in at that particular time because it is right on the midheaven, right above us. Right on
Some people have conjectured that, you know, we may have some sort of a binary relationship with Sirius, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they've actually, that, you know, first they thought it was one star, and then of course when we got telescopes you could see it was 2, and then they found out it was actually 3 stars in that Sirian system. Of course, the star it's our brightest star in the night sky, you know, not including the planets. Venus, of course, is the brightest object next to the moon and the sun, and but Sirius is the brightest fixed star in the sky, and of course very important to the Egyptians and to other ancient cultures, very important to them, and they would calibrate their year based on when Sirius would rise as a morning star before the sun. So we now base our year on a time, and this is, you know, it changes. It's not going to always be January 1st, December 31st, January 1st, but that is happening now. So it is a great way to tune in to that particular star, very visible in the sky. You can't miss it if you have clear skies, and so you can even just go out and ask for a download, a transmission, information that is for you specifically, coming from Sirius and from the beings that are from Sirius that are helping to guide us at this particular time.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so I think that's probably the most powerful way to tune into the ending of the year. And yes, you know, 2015 has been somewhat challenging at times, and you know, 2016 may continue to be. You know, what has to happen is everything that's not in alignment with our intentions must get pushed to the surface so they can be cleared and transformed. And I think a lot of people are experiencing that, and sometimes we forget, like, wait a second, I have these intentions for this, but this is happening because this needed to get cleared out of the way so that the intention could actually manifest.
And another thing, I think that I think there is this feeling that you're pulled in so many directions at once that you really kind of get out of your old self, and you have to let go, so that you can meet all the need. You know, it's like you have to go through the change because there's so much going on at once and coming at you from so many directions at once that it breaks apart the old patterns, so that you're, you know, it's like a pressure to just let go, to surrender. And so something new, it's like this leap in your consciousness can take place.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and if we're vibrating with old energy, then the new energy can't come in. So we need to clear that old energy out so that the new energy has a place to vibrate within.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not always easy, but it's definitely worth it when it happens.
That's why if you have anything, anything you can let go of, personal belongings or anything that is just not serviceable and you're not using it in your daily, anything you can find that you can let go of right now, I think would be is aligned with exactly what you're saying. Yes. To make room for this new to come in. You're really giving space. And sometimes a sacrifice is required, that you need to make a sacrifice. So the new, you've got to let go of the old so the new can come in.
And sacrifice, the original meaning of the word sacrifice was to make sacred. So sometimes we think of sacrifice as being painful or something, but when if we're finding a home for things we're not using, in a way we're making it sacred so that somebody who can use it will put it to use. Gets the opportunity to do that instead of it just hanging out in our closet.
Exactly. And as you said earlier, it's your attachment that creates the suffering. Yeah.
It's a good practice in letting go. And not being
Yes. So very liberating. So do you have anything else you'd like to share before we close?
I think that really covers it for now. And, we can look at other things at another time, but I think that's really what's the most vital and important right now.
Okay, so how can people find out more about you and your work and take part in your workshops?
Well, they can go to KaylinCastell.com or celestialtimings.com. Either URL will get you to my website. There's a lot of information there. Also,
I'll put a link below the video for you. You can go there direct.
Astrology.com. We're actually starting a new class in January. And we're doing a solstice event. We're going to be speaking in depth around this Jupiter North Node, what it means for people, and if you can find out if there's maybe ways that it's personal to you, and some other things that we'll be talking about in that on December 19th, actually, in a couple of days, 3 days from now, from the time of this recording. So, and there'll be a recording available if people want to go to that later, but that you can find that information on astrology.com.
Wonderful. So that's it for today's show. I do have some important announcements coming up for you. One of them is that we're going to have a panel of astrologers. One of them will be Kaylin, and we're going to talk about 2025 and vision the future by looking at some of the things that are coming. We're going to have some major changes as far as planets moving. Uranus will be moving into Gemini in 2025. Pluto will move out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. And Neptune will be moving into Aries. So those are, so we want to have, I think one of the most important things is that you've got to have a vision for where you're headed. Yeah. And so I think, the old adage, where there's no vision, the people will perish. So I think it's very important that you have a fresh imagining, some visions for where you're headed. And so if you don't know where you're headed, any road will get you there. So we think it's very important for you to maybe we'll give you some ideas about some of the possibilities so you can start dreaming up the future you want for yourself and our world. So, and then one last thing with
it's less than 10 years from now, 2020.
Yes.
So, yeah.
It's coming right up.
It's
it's not that far.
Last 10 years really fast.
Yes. Especially this day and age. Time is going very fast. Everything's moving fast. So anyway, there was one last thing I wanted to say. With the expert help of my literary agent, I've signed a contract to write a book about essential oils. Members of my community will be invited to get involved in helping me write the book they want to read. So sign up for Soul of Aromatherapy if you'd like to get involved. You'll get a free 6-lesson online aromatherapy course when you join. So more astrology reports and important announcements to come soon. Thanks again for joining us. I really appreciate your being here and playing some small part in helping me make a positive difference in your life. Have a beautiful day, a warm mahalo, much love to you. Thank you, Kaylin. It's always a pleasure having you with us. I love you so much and appreciate your being here.
Happy New Year to you and to everybody who's listening.
Until next time, relax, enjoy your life, and stay connected.